Today, I'm taking a look at the Adidas Adizero Adios 5 versus the SL20. .30 miles, 8 minutes, 18 seconds from about 145 beats per minute on average today in the Adidas Adios 5. I did have 2 faster miles in there, 2 marathon pace miles, so it wasn't exactly 8:18 for the entire time. Most of the time I was a little bit slower than that, with the exception of those 2 faster miles. And the purpose of today's run was just to get reacquainted with the shoe, because I've also been doing a little bit of running lately in the SL20 as well, and I wanted to talk about them head to head, because on paper, they're pretty similar. But before I get into those differences, or the few differences that there are, I do want to go over some disclosures. The SL20 is a pair of shoes I purchased with my own money, but the Adios 5 is a pair of shoes that was sent to me for the purpose of review. However, in neither event am I getting reimbursed for the purchase price of any shoes, or being paid to wear them, or to make any of these videos. And no one's get a chance to preview any of my thoughts or footage before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. Under the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about these 2 shoes head to head. Now, like I was saying before, these 2 shoes are almost identical on paper. One of them is 8.1 ounces and one of them is 8.0 ounces as the stated weight, both in size 9, which is my size. And one of them has a 9.5 millimeter heel drop and one of them has a 10 millimeter heel drop. First, let's take a look at the Adios 5. The Adios 5 is Adidas's racing shoe. They list it on their website as a shoe for ultralight racing and training, and that definitely is what I'm getting in here. We've got cellular mesh on the top, super breathable material, but also strong enough to keep you locked in even at faster paces. Tons of lacing up here so you could really dial in fit to just how you need it to stay locked in. Almost no padding on the tongue, almost no padding in the heel cup. Everything is just very streamlined. It's pretty much a traditional road racing flat is what you're gonna get with this. There is Lightstrike in this year's, which makes it different from the Adios 4, and I think that's an improvement over last year's version. But the overall kind of formula is the same. A little bit of boost in the heel, a little bit of boost in the midfoot, and then another foam carrier that sits on top that provides a little bit more quicker rebound. And then also you've got this torsion system that I don't think is just helping you against like torsional turning of the foot. I also think it's having a little bit of plate action that works in the shoe. Overall, the feeling is very similar to what I experienced in the Adios 4. I think a lot of the things I said about the Adios 4 are gonna apply to this. I do think that the Lightstrike is a bit of an improvement, but it's largely the same shoe. At slower paces, like a lot of the miles that I had this morning, it's just a little bit awkward. It feels like a shoe that just doesn't have enough underfoot, but this isn't really meant to be a slow pace, easy pace kind of shoe. There's just not a lot of stuff here from the midfoot back. It really tapers thinly, almost kind of like in a racing spike kind of fashion, where there's a lot of surface area in the forefoot and in the toes, but once you get to the arch, it really tapers off very thinly. And when you're running in slower paces where you might be using more of the entire shoe, you really feel it because there's just not a lot to absorb the shock back here. But once you get up on your toes and you're moving faster, there's just a magical amount of boost that's in here that's really special. You would think that there's not enough boost in here to really make a difference. There's not a lot of stack height up in the front of this shoe. I think you're only getting up to 21.5 millimeters up front. So there's not a lot that's going on here, but there's just something about that amount of boost plus this Lightstrike that's in here that makes for a really nice, pleasant, bouncy push-off sensation that I'm getting with each step. I've taken this shoe out for 20-mile runs before. It can do that, but I don't know that I'd want to race anywhere near that kind of distance in this. I think I could definitely take this out for a half marathon. I'd be pretty beat up by the end of it, but I think I'd really enjoy having the shoe. Anything longer than that, and I think that my forefoot would probably be wanting a little bit more protection. But otherwise, a follow-up from last year's really fantastic Adios 4 and some incremental improvements into the Adios 5. I'm really liking this shoe for what it's really intended for. Now let's compare that against the SL20, which again looks really similar to it. Kind of the angle, the design. It's got a bunch of lacing up here as well, the same 7 eyelets, although these are slightly further spread apart, it seems to me. There's a mesh on here. It's not the Cellar mesh. It's not the exact same mesh that's on the Adios 5, but there is a mesh up here that is nice and breathable as well. But then you've got this like weird, I don't know if this just decorative designs or like this stuff on the back. It's almost like a pleather material that's on here. And this is like a TPU or a rubber kind of thing. It's pretty translucent. It's not that thick, but it is providing a little bit more structure and rigidity in this heel cup area. And it's just a little bit of a wider shoe. And so the forefoot looks almost identical, measuring it up side by side to the Adios 5. The forefoot is pretty much the same, but then once the Adios 5 would start tapering here, it just kind of stays wide in the midfoot, and you've got a significantly wider base. I'm not saying it's a fat shoe in the back, but it's got a much wider base in the back, and it's got a little bit more of a stack height. This is 24 millimeters in the back, and I believe this one is the 10 millimeter heel drop shoe, so 24 and 14. Pretty nice ratio here for me. It feels really good. The Lightstrike is really nice in this shoe. For when you're going faster, you're getting a nice pickup speed. I don't feel like going fast is quite as nice in this shoe. It's fantastic to go fast in this shoe. Not quite as nice as when you're going fast in the Adios 5. But I also think that because there's just more cushion in here, I could run in this shoe faster for a longer distance. So I think that that is one of the differences for me if I were going to use either of these shoes for racing. But because there is more width in the back of the SL20, and because there is more stack height in the SL20, 24 millimeters in the back here versus 21, I believe, in the back of the Adios 5, this can handle easier paces a little bit better. I'm not saying that this is going to be a great daily trainer for everybody, but I was able to use it in some of my daily training type activities, and my feet weren't mad at it. So definitely something that you can use with a lot more versatility than the Adios 5. It's still pretty light as well, coming in at 8.1 ounces, only 0.1 ounce more than the Adios 5. I'm not sure how they're doing that. I think that they could probably even get it lighter if it wasn't for all this just stuff in the back that's here. You've got a little bit of a higher collar in the back here for the heel. You've got a little bit more padding around this area in the back. So just some slight comfort touches. So maybe like if you're looking at the Adios 5 and thinking that's maybe too stripped down of a racer for me, you want something that feels fast but maybe has a little bit more something there for you, then I think that this is a great option. The other way to think about these is this could be the racing shoe and this could be the training shoe, the one that you're taking for those long tempo runs or those longer interval runs, and then you're saving this one for your race day. I think that could be another way to kind of break them up too. They're two very similar shoes ultimately, but they have slightly different purposes. Going head to head, I think I overall prefer for like a mile style of running, and since there really aren't any races on the calendar for the foreseeable future, I think I'm kind of liking the SL20 a lot more than I like the Adios 5, but I also just think that they're two different tools that you're going to be using a little bit differently. So I don't think there's really a wrong choice with either of these if you're looking for something that has a little bit more versatility though. And I think it's a lot cheaper right now, either from starting retail or at some of the sale prices that you can get for the SL20. I think the SL20 is going to get the slight edge for me. So those are my thoughts on the SL20 versus the Adios 5. Let me know in the comments if you have any of your questions or want to talk about it some more. I'd love to keep the conversation going down there. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hope you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.